My name is Brian Bloom, and I've been asked to talk about what value means in the pharmaceutical industry. I'm in your industry, but I actually sit sort of adjacent to your industry. So I am one of you. Everyone at Bloom Burton is either comes from the pharmaceutical industry. We're PhD scientists. We discover science, and we're medical doctors, but we operate exclusively on Wall Street or on Bay Street. And so, Mitch has asked that we do a little primer here, not on drug pricing, though we'll touch on that. And I do have a slide on Martin Shkreli, who I've met before, little schmuck. And okay, so we're going to talk about what value is. Is it the green button? There we go. So very quickly, this is not an advertisement, but just to frame the discussion, Bloom Burton is the leading investment group for healthcare in Canada. We provide 6 services. Everything at the top are what most investment banks like RBC and Bank of Montreal do, but we are 20 people in Toronto, and all we do is healthcare, Canadian healthcare. So we raise capital for companies. We know almost every global investor, whether it's a venture capitalist in Connecticut or New York or Silicon Valley, or whether it's a mutual fund manager in London or in New York that owns $1 billion of Johnson & Johnson. And we're their conduit to help them make decisions as to what Canadian companies they invest in healthcare. We also do a lot of merger and acquisition advisory. We do stock research, which is equity research. Monetization planning is our medical consulting arm. And we do direct investing too. We've raised our own funds, and on behalf of investors, we make decisions to invest in companies. We operate in every area of healthcare, but obviously this room is most interested in big pharma, specialty pharma, commercial stage companies. Medical technologies, healthcare, sales, and marketing. So that's what I've highlighted there. An example of our capital raising, just a couple months ago, Bill Wells and Greg Gubitz, formerly of BioVail, launched a new pharma, and we helped raise them almost $400 million. It took a month. And there are many other specialty pharma companies that we've acted for to raise capital. We represented Alveda in their recent sale to IGI. Par's company was sold to Tribute. We represented Tribute as it combined with Pozen, and monetized Pennsaid for Nuvo to the Evil Horizon that I just saw was on your slide, where they increased the price of a drug by 500%. So merger and acquisition. We do a lot of stock research too, buy and sell reports. And we do direct investments. We gave Greg Orleski his first $2 million to launch Integra Skin, which is a new dermatology company. We've given loans to Pediapharm and other companies that are commercial. And finally, the Apotex logo isn't there, but we hold the Healthcare Investor Conference that many, many commercial stage pharmaceutical companies, including Barry's and Sean's, have presented at. So, and the slides aren't coming up properly. My Venn diagram was a little goofed up there. How do investors, pardon me? Okay. How do investors calculate value in the pharmaceutical industry? You'd be surprised to know that, investors look at determining whether they're going to make an investment or not no differently than an internal a decision maker. So at a large pharmaceutical company. So, in the 90s, it was all about safety and efficacy. And no one was even thinking about commercial things like reimbursement, competition, savings to the system, pharmacoeconomic concerns, and things of that nature. It was just assumed that if you brought something safe and efficacious to the market, it would get reimbursed, and commercial was a vast, far distant third to safety and efficacy. So now we have investors, whether they're external, like a guy with a check who's going to buy your stock or invest in your startup, or if it's internal, the head of R&D at Glaxo who needs to figure out how to split up their $10 billion budget. Do I invest in this or do I not invest in that? Or the GM of a Canadian pharma to figure out whether they're going to put marketing dollars behind A instead of B. All of these decisions necessarily need someone to make a decision as to where the value is, what it is, and how much larger the value of a pharmaceutical asset can be with investment in time and energy. And of course, that brings up opportunity cost. When you're investing time and dollars to one thing and the boots on the ground, you're not investing in something else in your pipeline or not acquiring some other company. So there's the trifecta of safety, efficacy, and commercial things. Again, the slides, for some reason, are not showing. There are other things, too, that add into just the nature of the products themselves. The first is, of course, product-specific factors, or company-specific factors. What is the management team's track record? That is a non-quantifiable thing. If I think a drug's going to be priced $2,000 per month because of its competitors are priced, and this one's better, and it saves the system one less bed per day or something like that, I can quantify that. There are non-quantifiable or qualifiable things, or qualitative things, like what I call the Jonathan Goodman effect. Jonathan Goodman went out through Knight Therapeutics and raised $500 million without one asset, because he's Jonathan Goodman. That's a great example of how management or, investors' faith in a management team's ability to get drugs to market and to patients and grow profits. That's an example. And there are other things that are specific to a company that are more qualitative, like, do they have specialization in a certain expertise, in a certain disease indication? Do they have infrastructure that can be leveraged? And, of course, is their headline risk positive or negative for the diseases or the nature of their company? And then there are things that are not even related to the pharmaceutical industry, but that affect every company in their ability to assess risk and to raise capital and to invest in growth. And that, of course, are things like political environment. Is it the left? Is it the right? Is it socialist? Is it capitalist? Interest rates. Is money available? Is it cheap or free like it's been? Is it rising because Yellen is going to jack it up a quarter of a point? And what is projected to be in the future? What is the risk tolerance of investors? And again, all of these things have to do with both internal and external. So again, the head of R&D at a pharma needs to think about this, just as someone who runs a mutual fund needs to think whether he wants to invest in the pharma industry or a new startup or a new project. Multiples, we'll talk about it, but obviously, Sean was just talking about $200 billion of value has been erased in the specialty pharmaceutical industry. So that's just the perceived value of the companies. It's not $200 billion of sales has been wiped out. It just means that if Valeant used to be worth $300 billion, it is now worth $100 billion, as an example. And I'm sure most of that attrition has been one company, taking a few other companies down with it. All right, good. So, so the final analysis is, of course, looking at these quantitative things like, efficacy, safety, and the commercial aspects like reimbursement and pharmacoeconomic, and competition and patents, and then adding in, those more qualitative things like management and things, related to what makes that company special or their capabilities, and the macro factors. And all this information generally goes into some sort of projection, and then the different valuation methodologies are assessed, whether it's DCS, MPV, or comparative company, like multiple analysis. So, you either make your investment or you don't, or you wait. So that's Martin Shkreli. I've met him before because he used to run a hedge fund in New York that invested in biotech, so I would call him up every now and then. So there are bad actors in our industry, and I'm not saying Valeant's a bad actor. I actually think that even though they're in the news, whether there's, self-dealing with their subsidiaries or not is really besides the point. It's a very valid business model to do very, little R&D and to launch drugs and provide access to drugs and to get rid of silly R&D or useless R&D, and to have a more efficient way to build a global sales and marketing commercialization infrastructure. But that's Valeant. Turing, of course, he got his behind handed to him in the news and by his investors and by Hillary Clinton because, as we've already mentioned, he did something that was good for his investors, but was not good for society, patients, caregivers, or anyone else. Was it illegal? Even if it wasn't illegal, it was just dumb. His investors have lost money. He shined a negative light on our entire industry like we're all evil, money-grubbing pigs, which of course is not the case. But the reason that I'm very positive on healthcare commercial companies, which of course includes everyone in the room, and the service providers like STI and others that help them grow and bring new drugs to patients, is because of the good stuff. Biotech, as Andrew, the CEO of Biotech Canada, the president of Biotech Canada, will soon tell us, it's the research and development that really is the most positive thing that's going on in our industry, which of course forms the basis for all new drugs that come to market and all the good things so that we can talk about. And all the reasons that we should be proud to defend the prices that are given in the marketplace and the high cost of drugs. It's because of the benefit to society. And biotech, by the way, has been, we say biotech, it really means pharma R&D. The biotech industry, in other words, startups or smaller companies that do R&D, has been on a 40-year bull market run. And I don't think it's going to stop. I think R&D is just entering its golden era for these reasons. Number one, we look at $13 billion to sequence the first genome, and now it could be done for $4,000 in 2 weeks instead of 13 years. Massive advances in science, technology, and the tools that researchers in pharma and biotech use to discover and bring new drugs to market. You look at targeted therapies like Sovaldi, Kalydeco, Keytruda, Opdivo, and others. These are targeted therapies, and then we go to the bottom left, that are specific for certain patient populations, where whether it's in clinical trials or in the market, we have a high degree of confidence that a drug will work for a smaller number of people or a more narrow band of people. So we're better at knowing who's going to respond. And on the bottom right, we have open capital markets, lots of capital available, and an FDA and regulators that are working with companies to bring all these great things to market. So I think that the good outweighs the bad. We all have a lot to be very, very proud of. I know my acceptance speech is too long, and I'm being, taken off. So that's it. And we're happy to meet any of you afterwards. This is my conclusion. Just so you know, we have our holiday party. We expect about 500 people to join us at Biomark from the Pharma and the Bay Street. And the Bloom Burton Investor Conference is next May. So thank you for your time.